Thank you both for those wonderful comments. I think we all feel her presence in the room. I look forward to everything Jennifer Egan writes. I can't wait for the next book to come, and I so look forward to everything that she writes that I even love receiving the emails that she sends on behalf of two beloved New York institutions, sometimes fundraising for the New York Public Library, but frequently bring our attention to issues that face the writers around the world on behalf of PEN American Center, an organization where she serves as president. Two great institutions and a great writer. I mean, this is the writer who brought us the Pulitzer Prize winning A Visit from the Goon Squad, and this is the writer who brought us the book that quite literally everyone in New York was reading, Manhattan Beach. Jennifer Egan, and here to induct her is Suzanne Nossel, Chief Executive Officer of PEN American Center.
I think there's probably a lot of people in this room who could just off the cuff offer a wonderful introduction to Jennifer. With 5 novels, a slew of prizes, and reams of critical acclaim to her name, Jennifer Egan is about as celebrated as a contemporary novelist could be. National Book Critics Circle Award, Guggenheim Fellowship, and Pulitzer Prize, just to name a few. Critics have debated whether to classify her writing as modernist, postmodernist, or something else entirely. A global congress was held on the subject, Invisible Circus, an international conference on the work of Jennifer Egan. While there's no agreement on how to summarize Jenny's oeuvre, there's no question that it delights. In the words of George Saunders, to see the world through Egan's eyes is to be moved through language to new adoration of the world. Francine Prose, another inductee here a few years ago I saw, concurred. She wrote, the vocabulary, the crisp, graceful sentences, the intelligence of tone, all suggest that behind the narrative is a consciousness, and behind the consciousness is a writer who knows what she is doing. In 2011, the New York Times Book Review asked, is there anything Egan can't do? 6 years later, after the publication of her best-selling novel, Manhattan Beach, Kirkus Reviews answered, apparently there's nothing Egan can't do. I think Kirkus was assessing Jenny from a purely literary point of view, but they were right in more ways than just that. She became president of PEN America in 2018, and she was on our board, and she was so warm, friendly, and down to earth that some wondered what she might be like chairing a meeting or handling a crisis. But Francine Prose had it right when she judged Jenny was a writer who knows what she is doing. She's fearless, passionate, unflinching, and guided by a ramrod straight moral compass. When she learned about a small program that sent writers into high schools in poor city neighborhoods, she threw her weight behind it, getting literary luminaries to volunteer their time. When Jamal Khashoggi was murdered, she led the charge for PEN America in the United States Congress, demanding justice. When Summit PEN choked at the prospect of filing a lawsuit against the President of the United States for his threats and acts of retaliation against journalists and the media, Jenny rallied them to press forward in defense of the First Amendment. Always the applause line. While the criteria for the Writers' Hall of Fame may be confined to the written word, what makes Jennifer special and famous is not only her boundless talent, but her courageous leadership on behalf of writers everywhere. So please join me in congratulating her on being inducted into the Writers' Hall of Fame.
Well, the best thing about working at PEN America is working with Suzanne. So thank you so much, Suzanne, and thank you all. When I moved as a little girl from Chicago to San Francisco with my mother and stepfather, I discovered the deep relationship between geography and personal history. Even at the age of 7, looking out the window of the hotel room when I woke up on my first morning in San Francisco, I saw clearly that the light and palm trees and pastel colors had nothing in common with the rusty industrial landscape I had left behind. And my life unfolded very differently than it would have if I had stayed in Chicago with my father. I think that early discovery is one reason that place is absolutely central to my fiction. I don't begin with characters or a plot, just a time and a place. And out of that time and place comes everything else. And more, the place that has been my portal into new works of fiction is my chosen home of New York. I knew I wanted to live in New York before I had ever seen it. And I stayed here despite the fact that the novel I arrived with in 1987 was unreadable even by my mother. Yes, people became hard to reach after I sent them that book. And the discovery that temping was not nearly as lucrative as I had hoped. In the years since, New York has been my education, my cultural amusement park, and my endless source of people watching and eavesdropping. I want to thank my husband, David Herskovitz, who's here tonight, for loving the city as much as I do and raising our sons here with me without ever owning a car. And I would also like to thank Nan Graham, Kate Lloyd, Katie Monaghan, Roz Lapel, and Kara Watson of Scribner, a publishing house with its own essential place in New York literary history, for welcoming me into their family. There is no Hall of Fame in the world I would be prouder to join. Thank you so much for this honor.